Hello, Sarah Sabin, executive and team coach here in the Leading in the Modern Way video interview series. And I'm really excited to be talking to Marco Benitez today, who is the founder and CEO of ROOK. Marco, welcome to the show. And could you briefly introduce yourself to my listeners?
Awesome. Super excited to be here. Thanks so much for this invitation. Well, I'm Marco Benitez. I'm the CEO of and founder of ROOK. Quickly before, I'm from Mexico, now living in Miami, in US. I'm biomedical engineer. I have a second degree in biomedical. Before ROOK, I work in the big pharma, 14 years more or less in the clinical trials studies. Um, New molecules in different big pharmas like Roche. The last one, I was the head of medical affairs. And running all these trials helped me to understand that when you have new things, you have new data, when you have tons of information, you can create things and you can improve people's lives. That's why we build ROOK. And yeah, super excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I have to say, I did notice that about you, that you'd come from that big pharma background, because it's always interesting to know how entrepreneurs come to set up the companies that they set up. And I'm curious, in your case, obviously, all of those years working in pharma, did it help to generate the idea for ROOK?
Yeah, well, definitely that's for me was super important. But I will say that before that, one step back is this is my second startup. My first startup, I get an exit on 2006.
Mhm.
And then I start to travel. I complete my studies and everything. And then I start in the big pharma. Was super interesting. Big pharma, it's like, or at least this type of companies that are so big. You met a lot of people. You met all the processes. Helped me to be very structured, which is super important once you start to create your own company. Because I remember very well my first day in ROOK, and it was like very crazy. Where did you start? And this being structured that this type of company help you, it's like one of the most important things. And of course, I learned, different areas, learn from marketing, sales, trials, in research and development. You can find like where your sweet spot. And that's why I feel so good building ROOK, because first of all, give me all the structure part from people perspective, from growth a company, from clinical trials, research, everything, know new people, because everything around startup, it's like building your network. Of
Mhm.
course, you have, because at the end of the day, when you build a network, that will help you also to receive feedback from your product. So I will say that the structure that gave me the big pharma was huge and was super important. And also I have very good friends over there who they were my first investors. So I think that it's part of the journey. I think that everyone who is well, that's my perspective, of course. But when you are building something new, maybe you need like understand how the big companies work. But that's my perspective, definitely.
Mm. And, there are different schools of thought on that. I
Mhm.
am of the school of thought that it helps to know the kind of structures that exist, because startups need structure, not obviously to the level that exists within corporates, but it's good to have that background so you can make sense of the chaos, because the beginning can be chaos. And the other point you raised about the network is something that's come up before with those that worked in corporates and then started their own company. There is that crossover that allows you to build the business that much quicker, because you have relevant connections that will help you get going quicker.
Or maybe, yeah, I'm 100% agree with you, but Yeah, maybe not necessarily they are the ones who are going to open new people or new network, but at least you have the sense how to build a network.
Mm-hmm.
Because on my perspective, changing from big pharma, at the very beginning we have a different idea about ROOK, and we make a pivot during this transition. But at the very beginning, we were in the fitness industry, and before I was in the big pharma, which is completely different. The people, it's completely different. It's like it's not related. But what I understood was how do you build a network. In fact, that helped me since the college. College for me was the best way to understand how to build a network. My professors, my teachers, my everything, they helped me to finish my career. They helped me to understand and build something more over just like the college. It's the same thing in the big pharma and all these big industries. Because I was like, I just don't want to know people from my country. I was like, I want to build something more. And I was like all the time trying to build this network outside of Mexico. And I have very good relationships from people from Switzerland, from Germany, from Latin America, from the US and everything. And that helped me a lot to grow on my profession when I was in the big pharma.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I am in the startup industry, was like, hey, this is the same thing. At the very beginning in the fitness industry, but then we start to work more in the digital health space, in the healthcare space, and it's always the same. It's the same thing. And but the structure thing helped me also to be like, hey, we need to make A, then B, then C, and you will find this. It's like a recipient.
Mm. You know, it's interesting. It's the what I've really taken away from what you've said is that everything is transferable. So
Yeah,
when you've learned something in one environment, you can take it to another environment, even though it seems not connected, it actually is because the core principles and skills are things that you can transfer.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
Mm.
That's a perfect translation, by the way.
It's one of my superpowers, summarizing things well. So I'd love to know more, thinking back to the beginning of your ROOK journey. What were some of the really significant challenges you faced at the beginning in growing your company to the stage it is now?
Understand the needs, understand the problem that I'm solving. Understand that took me a lot of time
Mm.
because at the very beginning was like, hey, I think I have a clear opportunity here. But at the very beginning, we were not like solving a problem. At the very beginning, we were solving something that not necessarily was a problem. But then I start to learn and to hear people, our clients, our advisors. And when I start to hear and be more coachable, that helped me a lot to move forward and say, hey, the problem was not that. We can maintain the product, it doesn't matter the product. But if you really understand the problem, that will help you really to move more quickly.
Mm.
That was very challenging. Then, of course, finding great people that can help you to build your product, it's or the problem that you are solving, it's very challenging because at the end of the day, you have to have people more smarter than you,
Mhm.
and which is the most important thing. And not because I'm smart, maybe I'm not that smart. Basically, it's like finding that type of people that it's, and you can create like a very good team. It's very difficult, and you have to be very like open to talk with a lot of people, and then find, time. It's everything. Momentum. It's everything. It's like it's a very complicated journey, and the growth it's also super interesting. I would say it's a unique thing in this world. I
Mm.
really love it. I really love it.
Mm. So, I just want to kind of pick up on the first point. At the beginning, you don't necessarily know what the problem is, even though you think you know. And it's not until you do more talking to people that you really clarify and hone in on the problem, which is why it's so important for startups to be flexible, because they need to be able to pivot if things become clear, circumstances come to light, etc. And then also on the team point, again, the team that you have at the beginning might not be the team that's meant to stay with you for the whole journey of the company as the company grows. And again, even with a team at the beginning, you're looking at sort of figuring out what's the right dynamic I need to have in place, what's the kind of culture that I need to build that will take me to where I want to go, or take the company to where it wants to go.
Yeah, I'm agree with you. People, it's important. Something that you need to be very aware is like, I love this phrase, and it's from Bruce Lee. Be like water, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be very flexible. You have to be very like, if the water it's in a cup, we'll take the shape of a cup. Mm-hmm. If it's a plate, we'll take the shape of a plate. It doesn't matter. You have to be very flexible. So the first people that you potentially hire or build something with them, they have to be very flexible. And it's difficult, even though that, for example, my co-founder, I love my co-founder, but at the very beginning for him was super difficult, that part. Mm. It took time. It took time to shape to be like which kind of, if you are going to be a cup, you are going to be a plate, or you are going to be, I don't know, whatever. But I think that at the very beginning, you need to be very generalist. That's why be like water, it's super important.
Mm. Bruce Lee's come out with some cracking quotes. But that's a really good one. Again, it doesn't need to be this huge exercise. It's just observing the form that the water needs to take at that specific point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd love to know more about your views on leadership. How do you define strong leadership, and how do you see it impacting the growth of ROOK?
I will say that leadership is something transitional, I will say. Leader, it's like potentially I will be the leader at some point from someone. Sometime another one will take the leadership in different situations. I think this is something that should be transitioned to everyone, because everyone has different knowledge, and that's very important. If you realize that sometimes they will take some initiatives or leadership in some point, that's perfect. My leadership, for example, or the way I love to manage ROOK, it's this type of things. Like, hey, you are the expert in this, I will follow. Of course, please give me all this information. At the end of the day, this organigram or hierarchy, it's important because someone has to take the decision. Mm-hmm. And that's a different thing. But leadership, from my perspective, it's like everyone has to be a leader. Of course, not everyone, but at some point, it's like even the developers, they are leading something. And they are like, hey, trust me, this is the type of technology that we need. Okay, we are going to build on top of that. So this is the type of thing. It's not like leadership is not an easy way. It's something that must be built depending of the profile of everyone and the type of company that you want to build. But this is, I'm not sure if I answer your question, but this is the way I love to work.
Mm. I think so. Leadership is a personal journey, and different people have different leadership styles that feel more authentic to them. But I wanted to specifically pick up on the point that great leaders create more leaders, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the general rhetoric can look like leaders create followers. Yes, they can. If you are an inspirational leader and you inspire people to follow you, that's great. But what you really want to do is create more leaders, because then you have that culture of leadership within a company where people take responsibility for their own things, feel that sense of ownership, are allowed to practice their respective superpowers within a company, and are accountable for it, because these are all aspects of leadership that are important. And without that sort of autonomy and culture of leadership, what can often happen is you feel like you're kind of dragging your team behind you.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's, yeah, definitely yes. And also give them like a purpose.
Mm.
Purpose is the thing that it's the most important thing that which lead to be clear, be very clear with your why.
Mm-hmm.
If everyone is aligned with that, I think that's the beauty here. I don't motivate people. People are motivated for
Mm-hmm.
their own purposes. That's why we build a purpose. That's why we build a why, because that's the most important thing in our whole thing. Um, so yeah, I think that's it's not like a lead, it's create an environment. Not motivated, not motivate people, just don't desmotivate people. I will say that's my whole job. Don't don't desmotivate, or desmotivation is something very important.
Mm. Yeah, and I hear that sense of the overall why the company purpose should be what motivates people, not you personally as
Yeah,
the leader. Because obviously the problem with that approach is you're tied to what you're doing within the company forever, because you are the captain that steers the ship, and no one else can really steer that ship if it's all based around you. But people can buy into a stronger impact, a stronger purpose that they're having in the world. And that also makes it easier in some ways to build a team, because
exactly.
you're picking people that share that sense of purpose with you, and also have that kind of values alignment that makes up a great team. Because yes, everyone has different skills and different functions, but you need alignment on the important things, the values, the purpose, etc.
Exactly.
Mm. So,
Again, a perfect translation.
thank you so much. Marco, curious to know how you've invested in yourself as a leader, and what steps you take to grow and evolve.
First of all, exercise. I do a lot of workouts. I My morning starts with go to the gym and do something, move my everything. My I need blood going through everywhere. Um, that's a very important part of me. And then I don't see news. I don't see too the social media. For me, it's also that I don't used to use a lot, um, or none. Maybe just LinkedIn. That's my only platform. Um, I prefer to read or hear audiobooks also. That's mainly my main thing. That's how I learn things. I prefer to hear people much smarter than I, and hear all the journey, because everyone, it's an open book, and it's very interesting. I love to learn from other people, um, be useful for everyone. Um, yeah, that's how I normally learn things, from different experience. And of course, having this kind of communication, this kind of, I love to, if you see my calendar, it's full of calls with founders, investors, clients, and that's how I really, that's how I grow.
Mm. Two things here. So one, the movement and exercise. I cannot reiterate enough how important it is to move, not only from a
Super.
physical perspective, but from a mental perspective. And if that is not coded into your way of being, then it tends to be the first thing to go out the window once you're stressed, once you're busy, once you're traveling, whatever. So I get the sense, and obviously based on what you do as well, that it's very much part of your DNA.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to be really conscious and intentional of who you surround yourself with. So that means limiting negative influences, because no one needs to watch the news for half an hour every day. You can get enough headlines through a brief glance at what's going on. But people can allow themselves to be carried away with this negative talk, especially in a business context when it relates to the economy, etc.
Yeah.
Again, it is what it is, but there's always opportunity out there. But what I'm hearing from you is that you are very intentional of surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. And even if you're reading or listening to an audiobook, you are consciously choosing to learn something specific from that book or whatever it is that you're doing. And so, that learning and growth mindset is basically making sure that you're taking in positive energy that will allow you to be better and bring more and show up more for Rook.
Yeah, 100% for ROOK and for my family and also for me.
Mm.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm. Final question. If you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
Continue walking. No worry. No regrets. So move forward.
Mm.
That's it.
Don't worry, be happy.
More or less, it's like it's a journey. I will. I probably don't change anything from my past. That's perfect. I really love all the things that I came through, goods and bads, everything. That's why I'm here. So probably I will say like, keep moving. That's
Mm.
it.
You know what? You talk to a lot of people and they'll talk about all the regrets that they've had, all the things that they haven't done. But if you think of things as a journey, everything is a journey, right? Because there's nothing to regret, because there's always tomorrow and next week and next month. And, again, I'm sure this is something that's coming from your surrounding yourself with positivity, is to just continue looking forward, because there's no point in looking back unless you're learning a lesson from it, in which case,
Yeah,
okay, you learn the lesson and you move forward.
yeah, exactly.
Marco, thank you so much for this conversation today.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. And to my listeners, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as well. If you would like to take part in the series, please do reach out to me. Bye for now.